Morning, everyone. We are continuing to monitor Hurricane Florence and urge everyone to take the necessary precautions and listen to the emergency responders to keep safe. Good news in the House is that the Senate has done some work on the appropriations bills and that we will be passing three appropriations and get them enacted online or on time, and more to come. We'll also be voting this week on the bipartisan infrastructure bill to strengthen nation's ports, waterways, and dams. And today, the Ways and Means Committee will mark up the tax cuts legislation to make permanent the tax cuts for families and businesses. For jobs and a booming economy, this majority is getting things done. You know, for almost a decade, we had been asking, where are the jobs? In 2013, OMB had said to expect slower GDP over the long term. Slow growth was called the new normal. Now, the American people didn't accept this new normal, neither did we, and we promised a better way 2 years ago. And at better.gop, you can see all of the details on the results of our work over the last 2 years. And it is our goal to keep this momentum going because people and communities are better off today. People who were hit hardest during the recession are rejoining the workforce. Middle-class income hit an all-time high last year. Wages are growing at the fastest rate in 9 years. Small business optimism is off the charts. In my home state of Washington, the average wage increases hit a 10-year high. And a new study just showed that Washington State is leading this year's uptick in personal income growth. While Democrats right now are running on raising taxes and taking this all away, our economy is breaking records with results that the Republicans promised, and we aren't slowing down. This morning, very pleased to have Ron Estes from the 4th District of Kansas with us today. The average family of four in his district will see a $2,000 in increased money in their pocket, thanks to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. He crisscrossed his district during the month of August, holding a whole host of forums, and he's with us to share a little bit more about that. Welcome, Ron.
Well, thank you, and good morning. I want to echo the concerns. Our thoughts and prayers are going out for the folks that are in the path of Hurricane Florence. You know, I want to talk this morning about how folks in my district in South Central Kansas are better off now because of some of the great things we've done. As I went through the district during the month of August and focused on how individuals' lives, how businesses, how farmers, how our veterans are better off, we focused on seeing the difference between having an economy that only grew at 1.9% during the Obama administration versus now we're growing at 4.2%. And what that's translated into more opportunities, more jobs, more benefits for folks in my district. You know, we've had in Kansas over 24 businesses that have publicly announced that they're doing bonuses and or pay raises for their employees. One of the businesses in my state, a local bank, community-based bank, Legacy Bank, is one of the recent ones that announced that they're giving $1,000 bonuses per each employee. Just this summer, they've announced that. And in August, I met with them, and we kind of talked with some of the employees and the leadership team there, and their message there was that without the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, they wouldn't have been able to do that. They wouldn't have been able to give that benefit for their employees. And what we're seeing is that money that employees are getting can then be turned around in the community, buying an automobile, taking their family out to dinner, saving for retirement, saving for the college education for their kids. You know, Wichita Railway Systems, which is a local railroad car supplier, announced what we think is the largest bonuses, $3,000 to $6,000 for their employees. It's a small distribution company that actually helps make sure our economy keeps moving forward. There's just so much now with the economic growth that rail lines are actually increasing the amount of traffic they have, and they've seen an uptick in business from that standpoint. I don't want to talk only about the economy, only about the positive things from the tax cut, because we've seen a lot of veterans in our military that are also better off now because of the priorities that we've put into this session. You know, by passing the VA Mission Act and by passing things like, you know, the affordable housing credit improvement, what we've seen is veterans, particularly veterans in my district, see benefits out of that. My district extends, 2.5 miles outside of Wichita, where the Bob Dole VA Hospital is located, and our veterans are having to drive in for routine checkups, and they won't have to do that now with some of the options that they'll have with the Mission Act. Instead of driving that much time, they're going to be able to actually see a local physician, which then helps their quality of life, but it also helps the rural doctor, the rural hospital, in terms of having additional patients to take care of. I had the opportunity to attend one of the housing developments, a couple of them actually, that were being built using some tax credits that are specifically targeted towards veterans and targeted for the elderly. And at the ribbon cutting for one of the veterans there told the local media that this is a miracle right here. God's done a lot of miracles in my life, but this is one of the top ones. And it's phenomenal to see the things that they have that are beneficial for them now because of some of the things that we've done in helping them. Altogether, a lot of these actions have encouraged just rapid growth in our economy, both in the state as well as throughout the country. I want to close talking a little bit of story about one of the other businesses in my district. BG Products is located in Wichita, Kansas, headquartered in Wichita, Kansas. It's an automotive manufacturers group that was started by a bunch of World War II veterans and auto industry folks. However, 2 years ago, BG Products was at a crossroads trying to figure out where they go. And following the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, BG Products was able to push forward with plans to expand, putting those new tax savings directly towards a new building and new jobs. On August 24th, BG Products broke ground on a 145,000 square foot new addition that will invest $24.5 million in the community and add 21 new jobs. That's 21 new families that are going to be better off now because of those jobs that are improved. And this kind of expansion would not be possible without the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and some of the things that we have done over the last year and a half. And so, BG Products is better off now. Our economy is better off now. My district, South Central Kansas, is better off now, and the country's better off now because of some of the things we've done over the last year and a half. And I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the great things going on in my district. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Ron. Good morning, everybody. My prayers go out to all the people that are in the path of Hurricane Florence. I know too well, representing South Louisiana, just how dangerous these kind of storms can be. And when you see the size of this hurricane, the first thing I would say is listen to your local leaders. When you hear governors talking about evacuations, please take heed because it's important. The most important thing is to keep your family safe. You can shore up your house, take your pets with you, but if you're in the path of that storm and your local leaders are telling you to evacuate, please take heed and ultimately make sure that you're safe. And my office stands ready to help anybody that ultimately has to deal with the consequences, but hopefully everybody is safe through this tragic storm. I do want to talk about this great economy. When you look at these numbers, seeing middle-class wages at an all-time high, seeing unemployment at an 18-year low, family wages going up, these are great results for the families across this country that we fought for, that President Trump fought for, and it's working. In fact, the economy is doing so well that now you see Barack Obama trying to take credit for this great economic growth. I'm glad he recognizes that after 8 years of a dismal economy, of high unemployment, of people having no opportunity, we have finally been able to reverse so many of the radical regulations that Barack Obama put in place that killed the economy. By cutting taxes and reversing all of the Obama tax increases, we're seeing this great economic growth. So think people out there that are experiencing the positive effects of this growing economy know how it happened. They know it happened because we finally got regulations under control. They know it happened because we worked with President Trump here in Congress to cut taxes, to put more money back in their paychecks through both higher wages and lower taxes. That's why we're rebuilding our middle class. We want to keep that going. We don't want to reverse this success. And in fact, when you look at the contrast in this election, Nancy Pelosi is making it clear what she would do. She said she would reverse the tax cuts. She wants to lead a charge to abolish ICE, the people that keep our community safe. When I go around the country, especially when I go to swing districts, Those families don't want Nancy Pelosi to take away their tax cuts. They surely don't want to abolish ICE, which would make our communities more dangerous. They want to keep those terrorists and those drug dealers and those human traffickers out of our country. And so we need to make it clear throughout this what the contrast is. And then ultimately, while we're making this contrast, I think it's important that we maintain civility in our debate. You saw again this week an attack on a candidate for Congress based on his political views. There is no place in our society for violence or inciting violence against people based on their political views or who they work for. And we all need to be calling that out. Not just Republican leaders, but Democrat leaders need to be calling it out as well. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. And one of the things that makes it great is that we respect other people's views. And even if you disagree with somebody's politics, you resolve those differences at the ballot box. You don't resort to violence like we see in third world countries. And when that happens, we all need to stand against it. There is no place for it in our society.
Judy and I want to send our prayers to the family who lost their loved ones last night. Many of you may know that my hometown of Bakersfield, there was a tragic act of violence. 6 individuals lost their lives. Bakersfield is unique in the aspect on these type of situations we will come together as one to work to get through this. And we continue to find more information of why it took place. I also want to keep in mind of those who are facing the Hurricane Florence today. As you know, we have a busy week and we had a lot scheduled, but I informed the members that we'll be departing today after the vote on the appropriation bills, so members can catch their flights back to their districts. Some are still in their districts, but I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity. There's a lot of important work being done, as you heard from the other members. There's a real difference between the results that have happened in this Congress, the results overcoming the resistance from the other side. Every day we learn more and more of new statistics and new facts of an economy getting stronger. Yesterday about the middle income being higher or the poverty level going down. That is the difference what this Congress and this administration has been able to achieve. But we have more work to do. Another new fact that you're going to have is you're going to find that we're going to get our appropriation process finished, something Congress has not done for a few decades. The Senate voted last night, and we'll have it coming through today. There's important facts in here. One that Ron Estes talked about is the VA Mission Act. It builds on what we've been able to do and improve the VA, making sure the very best employees can rise up and those who are not reaching the quality of level that they should could depart. Mission Act actually looks for the veterans themselves as the best form of care at the local location at the same time. We also look at the American Water Infrastructure Act. This is very important. More than $3 billion of goods move every single day. It affects every single state, building for the future when it comes to infrastructure as well. We know we'll have more work to do when we come back, but we wanted to make sure this got to the president's desk, that the timing was appropriate. And as we sit and work with this administration and those who have been before, that we are prepared for the hurricanes when it comes, to protect them in the beginning and help build after the aftermath of it coming forward.
Kevin, you left this on the thing here.
I play with it all the time.
Yeah, first off, I want to say that we're thinking about the people in Hurricane Florence's wake, people in the Carolinas. I know coastal folks don't need mainlanders telling them how to handle a storm like this, but I would be remiss if I did not tell folks, please listen to your local officials. Please encourage people to follow all local emergency orders. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the people who are in the path of this hurricane. We're going to keep monitoring this storm, and Congress stands ready to assist the people who will be in these affected areas in any way that we can. Now, we're here because we're doing some really important things on the floor today. This minibus conference report is a national security bill. It is a veterans bill. It provides critical funding to rebuild our military infrastructure. It strengthens our electrical grid, and it supports our nuclear weapons programs. It puts historic resources behind the reforms that we made to improve healthcare at the VA. That is a critical part of our Better Way agenda that is getting executed and implemented today. And I cannot stress this enough. This represents a return to our most basic responsibility around here, passing appropriation bills. Since we are doing this, this is the first time since 2007 that the House and the Senate will send multiple appropriation measures to the president's desk on time. So we are actually seeing a restoration of regular order, which is something that is extremely important to make the House and the Senate work well. This is how it always should be done, but it hasn't been this way for a long time. So it really is a big step in the right direction, and we're going to build on this. Lastly, this has been another good week, a great week for economic news. Yesterday, we got news that median household income has increased to a record high. This comes on the heels of Friday's report showing wages had their biggest increases since 2009. The bottom line is this: Americans are earning more, their finances are improving, people are better off. This is what matters. We can do a lot of work here in Washington, but what really counts is how these policies improve people's lives. And here we see yet another sign that we are on the right track, that the policies we have put in place in this Congress are indeed improving people's lives. You can learn more about this by going to better.gop. Any questions? Baraboo.
I hope you'd indulge me and help me celebrate the Packers' victory last week.
That's why I called on you. What do you think? Thank you for bringing it up. Yeah.
I wanted to touch on something that you talked with Wisconsin Politics about last night, and that's the erosion in trust in public confidence in civil institutions. First, I wanted to ask you about the Pope. He said that he's going to convene a meeting in February, the Bishops' Conference, to discuss prevention of sexual abuse. You're a prominent Catholic. I wondered what your reaction would be on that. And then also I wanted to ask you about the president. He had a tweet this morning that really challenged a report that said 3,000 people died in Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. And he said that that was really just the Democrats out to make him look bad by revising that number. He says only 6 to 18 people died. You've been to Puerto Rico in the aftermath of that storm. What do you think happened there?
The casualties don't make a person look bad. That's not. So I have no reason to dispute these numbers. I was in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. It was devastated. This was a horrible storm. I toured the entire island, and it's an isolated island that lost its infrastructure and its power for a long time. You couldn't get to people for a long time on the island because roads were washed out, power was gone, and the casualties mounted for a long time. So I have no reason to dispute those numbers. Those are just the facts of what happens when a horrible hurricane hits an isolated place like an island. The earlier point you made, yeah, this is very disturbing. First, we need to think about the victims, and we need to make sure that the victims get the help they need. Second, as a practicing Catholic, the last thing that this needs to be is become relegated to a fight between the Catholic left and the Catholic right. This needs to be elevated to truth and justice. That means cleanse the problem with total transparency and total accountability so that the healing can begin and so that the church can renew itself. So it's a very disturbing development, and I pray and hope that the church gets this right. I think Cardinal DiNardo, who's the head of the USCCB, who's the Galveston, Houston Cardinal, from what I can see, is on the right track, and I pray for him as he goes to the Vatican, I think today. And so that, to me, is how this, what should happen here.
Do you believe that these leaders are trustworthy, though? Do you believe that
Look,
the
I think
president is trustworthy?
I'm not gonna. I don't know the facts, but the facts need to come out. That's the point I'm trying to make. Sherman.
I'm curious what
Shana
you think.
Tovat.
Shana Tovat.
3% Jewish. Let's pronounce it correctly. All right. Yeah.
That was good. I'm curious what you think of the increasingly nasty tone of some of the ads, including the Super PAC, which you almost single-handedly have raised millions of dollars for. One ad tied a Democrat who worked at a law firm to defending Muammar Gaddafi. Another one took aim at a hip-hop album a Democrat put out a decade ago. I'm curious your view on.
So first, I legally cannot contact a super PAC, any super PAC, about what they do or don't do on ads. So we are legally prohibited from discussing ads with super PACs, even the NRCC. So having said all of that, I think you know me pretty well. I abhor identity politics. I don't think identity politics is good for the country. I don't think it's good for society. And I think campaigns are most successfully run by talking about ideas. For instance, we have a really good record to run on. Look at the phenomenal ideas that we have put into place, and they're making a big difference in people's lives. And also, look at how far left the Democrats are going. They want to abolish ICE. They want to socialize medicine. They want to repeal all the economic policies that have made this economy great. So I think we've got a fantastic contrast to run on. I will just leave it at that I don't think identity politics should be played by anybody at any time. I'll just leave it at that.
So just to follow up on that,
Yeah.
if that super PAC is exploiting identity politics, in some cases, will you stop raising money for it?
You can't legally coordinate with a super PAC. I want to save our majority. I'm going to do the things I can to save our majority and do it all by following exactly the campaign finance laws
And
that
then
we
on the
have.
3,000,
So-
does it disturb you that the president made that claim? And do you think he owes the families of
I don't
an
know.
apology?
I'll just say what I just said, which is there is no reason to dispute these numbers. And it's a function of this was a devastating storm that hit an isolated island. And that's really no one's fault. That is just what happened.
Mr. Speaker, you were talking about the minibus and the appropriations process. The one that's on the floor today, Mark Walker, the chairman of the RC, just put out a statement saying that Republican priorities were shut out across the board, and in the next round of appropriations, that conservatives would like to see their policy priorities. Would like
Sorry, I
to
was
see
just
their
getting some
policy
clarification.
priorities reflected, like the riders are in the House bill. And unless this is done, many of their members will find it difficult to support this funding. Are you concerned about getting conservative riders in these upcoming bills, especially the one that has labor?
I think we
agency
got a great amount of victories for our members. First of all, we're funding, the VA Mission Act is a perfect example, done the way the House wanted to get it done. So when you're negotiating with two parties in four corners, you're not going to get everything you want. That is how negotiations and compromise and legislation works. But having said that, I think that this passed 94-5. Is that? So I think the Senate vote sort of speaks for itself.
Last question.
Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We talked about the storm here. I know last year when you guys moved supplemental bills for Irma and Harvey, it went better than what happened with Hurricane Sandy before. And based on Lindsay's question, though, and some of these concerns expressed by conservatives and deficit spending, in this pending time of need as they assess the needs after the hurricane here, do you think that it's turned a little bit towards these disaster relief bills? You probably are going to have to do some supplemental if this bill if this storm is as bad as it is, and that they've moved past kind of what sidelined the Sandy bill a few years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And why? Why?
Well, I think if memory serves, there were things in the Sandy bill that a lot of members didn't think deserved to be in a disaster supplemental bill. Those bills have been cleaned up since then. The Harvey and Maria bills were what I would call much cleaner bills. And also, we have plussed up the FEMA accounts. So right now, FEMA has money in the pipeline. So I think we're better prepared on the front end of this. You never know what's going to be needed until you've gone through the disaster. So is it in the realm of possibility that we're going to have a supplemental? Of course it is, because disasters are just that. They're disasters that we don't predict. We have the DRF, the Disaster Relief Fund, that operates on rolling averages, but sometimes big storms exceed those averages, and then we appropriately respond. But with the last two supplementals, which these members are very involved in, I think we had much cleaner bills that were focused on getting the aid where it needed to. And more importantly, I think we're doing a better job on mitigation, on trying to get infrastructure built. The WRDA bill is passing today, which is water infrastructure, which is one of our Better Way agenda items for infrastructure. But that also helps provide mitigation so that levees don't break, so that bayous are built, so that reservoirs are constructed, so that we don't have the kind of devastation we've had before. So I think we're in a much better place than we were back in the days of Sandy. Thank you.